Hey guys, and welcome to Module 4. This week we're covering 3 sections, 1.4, 2.2, and 2.3. The videos, the first one and the last one are kind of long, the middle one is not too long, but these ideas all kind of go together. Let me just review these real quickly. 1.4, fundamental identities. These are reciprocal identities, your quotient identities, and the Pythagorean identities. These are the 3 most important ones. So I introduce them here. I start briefly talking about how to use them. Most of our work with these can be used in when we start doing proofs. We start proving more exciting identities. But also when we start looking at how to rewrite one trig function or some trig functions in terms of others, which is a very important concept in engineering type calculus. You know, when you're in engineering, you got to do you'll have to do calculus that involves integration, and for integration you'll have to do that type of thing fairly often. I say fairly often. Enough that it's important to know how to do it, how to rewrite some trig function in terms of another. So that we'll get a lot of play out of these fundamental identities then. But also, our chart that we made, trig functions of our special angles, 0, 30 degrees, 45, 60, and 90 degrees. These fundamental identities are really nice for filling out that chart. Like, I've only got the first column memorized, and I find the remaining columns using my trig identities. So that can make this really nice. Then we also got finding the sign plus or minus of trig functions, and that's super easy. Each of our trig functions is defined using x and y. But then we've got our 4 quadrants. In each quadrant, you're going to have set value, a set sign for x and a set sign for y. Like in quadrant 1, x and y are both positive. So all of our trig functions are positive. In quadrant 2, y is still positive, but x is negative. So anything that involves that x is going to end up being negative. So in quadrant 2, cosine is going to be negative, secant is going to be negative, tangent and cotangent are both going to be negative. And so on and so forth for each of the quadrants. That's all we use to do this. We pick a point, just some random point in our quadrant, and say, well, what is x? Is x positive or negative? What is y? Is y positive or negative? And then we use our definitions to determine what the sign of the overall function is. I guess I could keep going. In quadrant 3, it's down below the x-axis, or below the x-axis and to the left of the y-axis. All your x's are negative, all your y's are negative. So anything that has either one of those would be negative. So sine is negative, cosine is negative, secant is negative, cosecant is negative. But tangent and cotangent, since they're y over x, or x over y respectively, that's a negative divided by negative, and those functions are going to be positive in quadrant 3. So don't worry, I understand if you're not following that right now, but that's okay, and we'll do that in that section. Just a heads up of what's coming up. Reference angles, these are how I determine trig function values for any angle that it's a multiple of one of our standard angles, like 30 degrees has 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. Any of those angles, 150, 120, they have reference angles that relate back to our standard angles. And finding the reference angle allows us to really easily find the trig function value for that. I think I'm probably going into way too much detail here. And then finally, 2.3, we talk about using a calculator in these 2 specific cases, like using a calculator to find reciprocals, like, for example, to find cosecant, you would have to use the sine button on your calculator, so those are reciprocals. To find inverse functions, you'll have we'll have to actually use reference angles sometimes, and then sometimes you'll have to use reciprocals, and as part of these inverse functions, you're going to have to use the reference angles. So that's an exciting section that kind of ties in these two. That's why I put it in there. Some general announcements. You need to access these modules, and that's where these videos are. Some of you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think a couple of y'all have, which is great. But make sure you're accessing these modules. That's where I outline what we're covering for the week and the due dates and things like that. And also where I upload the notes. So if you're not joining those modules, you're not getting those notes. And they're all set to tell me who's entering and who's not. So you may be getting a call or an email saying, hey, what are you doing? I may actually remove, I know there's a link on the sidebar that says Pearson Tools, but some people have been accessing their homework that way, and they didn't even know about these modules. So I'll probably take that out to find any other stragglers who don't know about these modules. Next, we got the test that should become available next week. It'll cover everything through 2.3, so it'll cover everything we've covered so far, plus this material. So I'll post that study guide next week. The test will become available next week, and it'll be due the following week. And finally, an update on these sound problems I've been having. I have a new mic, I have new software, I've got new drivers, and I've played with these things long enough to figure out, hopefully, how to fix these. I'm about to record all these longer videos, and we're going to see if it works, but all my tests have worked out really well. Hopefully this will resolve our sound issue. The drawback of that is with this new software I can't display my screen, so you're going to want to either pull up the notes yourself or print out the notes so you can follow along. I'm going to be referencing those pretty extensively when we go through these videos. So that's it. Is there anything else? Oh yeah. I would not suggest trying to do all the videos in one sitting. I would say, watch this first video and then go work the assignments from that section. Watch the second video, then go work those problems, then come back and watch this third one. If you try to do all three in a row, it's too much to process at once. You need to work these, think about it, let it sink in, and then move on to the next one. So that's it. Now you can get started.